I scored 693. Sixth-board noun. My dad forced me to retake the exam for my cousin who got CLR. I scored 693 on the college entrance exam. 58th in the entire province. Tsinghua University was within my grasp. But when I pushed open the front door, what awaited me wasn't a hug. It was an ambush from the entire family. My aunt demanded I repeat senior year alongside my cousin, who scored CLR. My own father called me useless. My childhood friend took someone else's side. I refused, so they changed my college application while I slept. 6-second Chiner schools, not a single Tsinghua in sight. I called the police, had my own father taken into custody, and walked out of that house with my suitcase without looking back. The June sun scorched the little county town of Chuanchuan with a vengeance, and the cicadas screamed loud enough to split your eardrums. Sujinian's palms were slick with sweat, not from the heat, from excitement. She had just checked her college entrance exam score. 693 in science, ranked 58th in the province. That score was a lock for Tsinghua University. Clutching her phone, Sujinian jogged the whole way home. The old tenement building reeked of cooking oil from every apartment. She bounded up the stairs 2 at a time, reaching the 4th floor and pushing open the battered security door with its peeling paint. Dad, Mom. Sujinian stood in the living room doorway, panting, her smile so wide it was almost spilling off her face. I got my score. 69358 in the province. Tsinghua is a sure thing. She expected surprise, hugs, maybe even tears of joy. But the living room was cold as an ice cellar. Oh, quote. 4 people sat on the sofa. Her father, Su Jiangguo, sat stone hen-faced, his cigarette burned down to the filter without him noticing. Her mother, Wang Huifin, had red-rimmed eyes, wringing a towel in her hands over and over. Her aunt, Wang Kuiling, had her arms around a girl sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. That was Sujinian's cousin, Wang Shihan. And one more person leaned against the balcony doorframe. Shen Lingzhou, Sujinian's childhood friend from the next unit over, who had also taken the exam this year. She hadn't had the chance to ask about his score, but based on his usual performance, he was a Shu Jinan for a top-tier university. Right now, Shen Lingzhou was looking at Sujinian with an expression full of reproach, as if she were a child who didn't know any better. Jinian, her mother, spoke first, her voice a little rough. Your cousin didn't do well. Sujinian's smile froze on her face. She glanced down at Wang Shihan. Her cousin was buried in her aunt's arms, shoulders heaving, trembling all over from crying. How much? Sujinian asked quietly. But the look she directed at Sujinian held something indefinable. 412. Never mind a top tier school. Even a decent second tier was a stretch. Sujinian opened her mouth, at a loss for words. She stood there awkwardly, the excitement from moments ago suddenly having nowhere to go. You what? Sujiango ground out his cigarette butt in the ashtray with a harsh scrape. Can't you see your cousin crying? And you're standing there grinning? Sujinian froze. Dad, I was just what? Just here to show off? Sujiango's voice climbed several notches. You think your low-baijiu senmei aches you something special? Look at your cousin. You barge in here yelling about your score. Do you ever think about anyone but yourself? The words hit her like a bucket of ice water from head to toe. Sujinian's smile died completely. She stared at her father in disbelief. She had ranked Wisetin Dumleaf. Wushabat in the entire province, 12 years of grinding countless mornings rising at 5 and nights studying past midnight. And instead of a simple, well done, sweetheart, she got ripped to shreds. All because her cousin didn't do well? Jinian, her mother, chimed in, her tone gentler than her father's, but essentially saying the same thing. Your aunt only has Shihan. Imagine how heartbroken she is. Couldn't you at least read the room before you spoke? Can't just think about your own happiness. Sujinian's eyes went red in an instant. She bit down hard on her lower lip, forcing the rising tide of hurt back down. I'm going to my room. She turned to leave. Stop! The voice that called her back belonged to Aunt Wang Quiling. Sujinian stopped but didn't turn around. Jinian, dear? Wang Quiling released her daughter, stood up and dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. There's something your aunt would like to discuss with you. Sujinian slowly turned to face her. Wang Quiling walked up to her and took her hands. They were ice, gin cold and clammy, with a clinging quality that made Sujinian instinctively want to pull away. Shihan slipped up this time. Her grades aren't usually this bad, you know that. She's planning to repeat the year and try again. But you know Shihan. She's timid, can't handle the pressure alone. She's always been closest to you. If you could just go with her. Sujinian's head snapped up. Aunt, what did you just say? What I'm saying is, Wang Quiling looked at her with an earnestness bordering on reverence. Could you also repeat senior year to keep Shihan company? Your grades are so good another year, and you might even get into a better school. You could tutor Shihan, the two of you keeping each other company. And next year, you'd both get into great universities. Couldn't that be wonderful? Sujinian thought she was hearing things. Her aunt wanted her to throw all of that away to repeat the year. To babysit a cousin who scored. CLR. Absolutely not. The words flew out before she could think. Jinian, Sujiangwo slammed his palm on the coffee table. Your aunt is trying to have a civilized conversation. What kind of attitude is that? Dad, this isn't about attitude. Sujinian's voice rose too. I scored. Liu Juelsat, Tsinghua University. And you want me to repeat? Do you know what that means? Anything could happen in a year. What if I do worse? With grades like yours, how could you possibly do worse? Wang Quiffen muttered. Wah! Mom, the exam isn't as simple as you think. GAG. A thin, trembling voice came from the sofa. Wang Shihan lifted her head. Her eyes were swollen like walnuts, her nose bright red, tears still hanging from her chin. She looked utterly pitiable. GAG, do you look down on me? Wang Shihan sniffled. I know I'm dumb. I know I bombed the test. I'm not good enough for you to keep me company. I never said that, but I'm so scared of repeating alone. I have nightmares about sitting in the exam hall and handing in a blank paper. Her voice cracked, and she dissolved into sobs again, crying as though her heart was breaking. Wang Quiling immediately pulled her daughter back into her arms, patting her and wiping her own tears. My poor Shihan, don't cry, don't cry. Then she looked up at Sujiangwo and Wang Quifson, her eyes glistening. Sis, brother, Jian Yin Jian Lar. Shihan is all I have. Her father died young. I raised her on my own. Do you know how hard that was? Repeating a year is nothing for Jinian with her grades, but for Shihan, having a sister by her side would be a lifeline. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she spoke. Wang Quiffen couldn't sit still any longer and began wiping her own eyes. Quiling, don't cry. We'll talk it over with Jiangguo. What's there to talk about? Su Jiangu waved his hand. Jinian, what's the big deal about repeating 1 year with your cousin? With your scores, come back next year as the provincial champion, and you'll look even better. Su Jinian stared at her father. She felt it was absurd. Utterly absurd. Her lojo zerlode and sweat was nothing more than a tower of blocks in her parents' eyes. Knock it down, so what? You're smart, just build another one. But Su Jiango had reasons far beyond what he let on. 2 years ago. He'd been swindled out of more than sen ling li won in a failed business deal. It was Aunt Wang Quiling who had secretly dipped into her late husband's pension to bail him out. That debt had never been repaid, and he could never hold his head up around his sister Jin's and Jinlaw. Su Jianguo was a man who couldn't stand owing favors because debts had to be repaid. Wang Kuiling's only request was that he find someone to keep Shihan company during her repeat year. This was a debt he could not refuse to pay. I won't agree. Su Jinian's words came out one by one, each carved in stone. The living room went silent for a few seconds. Then Wang Shihan's crying grew louder. Enough! Su Jianguo shot to his feet. Su Jinian, I'm your father. What I say goes in this house. I say you're repeating, and you're repeating. On what grounds? Su Jinian fired back, screaming at her father for the first time in 18 years. Why should I pay for someone else's failure? I didn't cheat. I didn't steal. I earned that score on my own. Why should I hand it over? What do you mean, hand it over? Shihan is your sister. She's her and I'm me. Why should my life be chained to hers? You, Su Jianguo raised his hand. The air froze for an instant. That rough, smoked and stained hand hung in midair and ultimately didn't come down. But the gesture alone was enough. Su Jinian took a step back, tears rolling silently down her face. Just then, Shenlin Zhou, who had been silent the entire time, walked over. Uncle, don't be angry. He stepped between them, then murmured to Wang Xian, Don't worry, Jinian's just being stubborn. She'll come around. Every word drifted straight into Su Jinian's ears like a needle into her heart. Then he turned to her. And what he said next drained the last warmth from her body. Jinian, calm down. Shihan really is in a tough spot. Think about it if it were you. Wouldn't you want someone by your side? Su Jinian looked at him in disbelief. Actually, Shenlin Zhou paused, as if steeling himself for a confession. I'm planning to repeat too. What? Su Jinian was stunned. Shenlin Zhou had scored Liu Aryal. That was enough for an excellent Zhou Baowujian Tier University. I don't think I performed my best this year, and he glanced at Wang Shihan. I don't feel comfortable with Shihan being alone. In the repeat program, I want to keep her company. Jinian, come with us. The three of us grew up together. Don't let this tear us apart. Su Jinian looked into his eyes, those eyes she had known since childhood. And suddenly she understood. She didn't know when Shenlin Zhou had started caring about Wang Shihan. Maybe it was last summer when Shihan stayed at her house for a month, or maybe even earlier, but the look in his eyes right now couldn't lie. It was tenderness. Tenderness for Wang Shihan, not for her. Shenlin Zhou. Su Jinian's voice went suddenly flat with the dead calm of the last moment before a storm. Are you repeating because you want a better score, or because you want to be with her? Shenlin Zhou didn't answer, but the way his gaze slid away was answer enough. Su Jinian took a deep breath. Fine, I understand. She turned and walked into her room, locking the door behind her. Leaning against the door, she slowly slid to the floor, burying her face in her knees. Her tears burned like scalding water. Outside, the muffled sounds of conversation filtered through the door. She couldn't make out the words, but she could feel it all. Her aunt's tearful pleading, her mother's sighs, her father's slamming the table, Wang Shihan's broken sobs, and Shenlin Zhou's low, steady, comforting. Everyone was thinking about Wang Xian. Not a single person had asked Su Jinian, Are you happy? Is this what you want? What about your dreams? 3 days later, things spiraled out of control. Su Jinian had assumed that as long as she held firm, the whole thing would blow over. She was too naive. Her aunt practically moved in during those 3 days. Every morning, the moment Su Jinian opened her eyes, She could hear her aunt chattering away with her mother in the living room, the same refrain on loop. Jihan is pitiful. She can't handle repeating alone. Jinian's grades are so good she won't lose anything from one extra year. At first, her mother would say, "Let's try to talk Jinian around." But by the end, it had become, "Why is this girl so stubborn?" Her father was more direct. At dinner the second night, he slapped his chopsticks down on the table. "Sujinian, are you going to agree or not?" "No." Sujiango's face went dark. He left the table without another word. That night, Sujinian heard her parents arguing through the wall. Her mother said, "Stop pushing the girl," and her father replied in a low voice through the wall. Sujinian only caught fragments. "That money." "Your sister. How do we pay it back?" Then her mother fell silent and didn't make another sound. Selfish. Sujinian turned that word over and over in her mouth, then gave a bitter laugh. Ranking Wu Shibath in the province on her own merit and refusing to give it up, that made her selfish. On the third morning, Sujinian went to school to confirm details about the application process with her homeroom teacher. Teacher Zhao couldn't stop praising her score, calling it the highest in the school's history and a source of pride for everyone. Teacher Zhao analyzed the admission cutoffs for Tsinghua's various programs and recommended computer science and technology with her score. She was well above the line. Sujinian carefully noted Teacher Zhao's advice, feeling much more settled. When she got home, she found Wang Hemenhen sitting on the floor outside her bedroom door, eyes swollen, clutching a wad of tissues. "Gee." Sujinian stopped in front of her. "Do you hate me?" Wang Shihan looked up at her, eyes shimmering with tears. "I don't hate you." Sujinian crouched down, trying to keep her tone gentle. "Shihan, I don't hate you. But asking me to give up Tsinghua to repeat, that's something I can't do. Can you understand?" "But I'm so scared." Wang Shihan started crying again. "The repeat program is full of strangers. I won't know a single person. I can't survive a whole year alone. I just can't. Ji, just think of it as helping me out, okay? Please." She suddenly grabbed Sujinian's wrist with surprising force. Sujinian looked down at the hand gripping her, a tangle of emotions churning inside. "Shahan, you can find other classmates to repeat with. I'm sure some people from your class." "I don't want anyone else. I want you." Wang Xian's sobbing spiked in volume. "Why can't you sacrifice just once for me? Why, my whole life. Everything's always been about how great you are, better grades, better looks, everyone praising you. I can't compete with any of that. I'm begging you this one time and you won't even do it?" The words lodged in Sujinian's chest like a fist. She wasn't heartless toward Wang Xian. They'd grown up together, and though they weren't blood sisters, their bond was real. But feeling sympathy was one thing. Throwing away her own future was another. "Shahan, I'm sorry. Enough."
Don't.
Her father's voice came from the doorway. Sujinian looked up to see Su Jianguo standing in the entryway, his expression so dark it could drip water. Behind him stood her aunt and her mother. She didn't know when they'd come back. Su Jianguo walked in and pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. Sujinian's blood ran cold. It was a printed copy of her exam score report. She'd printed it at school 2 days ago and left it in her desk drawer. "Dad, you went through my things?" Su Jianguo ignored her, walked straight to the coffee table, and set the paper down. "I've already decided for you," he said, his voice low, but carrying an authority that brooked no argument. "Don't fill out your application. Repeat 1 year and take the exam again with Shahan next year. I'm keeping the score report." "What gives you the right to decide for me?" Sujinian shot to her feet, her voice shaking. "I'm your father. That's what gives me the right. Dad, that's my score. My life you can't." "In this house," Sujiango cut her off, each word hammering into her heart like a nail. Nothing is yours. It's ours. You eat my food, wear my clothes, live under my roof. 18 years, and I raised you. Now I'm asking you to help your cousin, and you can't even do that? What was the point of raising you? What was the point of raising you? Sujinian felt a hand clamp around her heart, squeezing hard and cruel. Her gaze drifted past her father to her mother standing in the doorway. Wang Kuifan's head was bowed, avoiding her eyes. Beside her, Aunt Wang Quiling wasn't looking at her either, just comforting Wang Xian and murmuring, "Don't cry, Han Han. Your uncle and aunt will take care of this for you." Watching the scene, Sujinian found it grotesquely ironic. Shen Linzhou had appeared at some point, too. Ish. He stood in the doorway holding 2 cups of milk tea, clearly having just come in from outside. Seeing the standoff, he paused briefly, then quietly set the milk tea on the shoe cabinet. "Uncle, how about this?" he said, adopting that mature, sensible tone adults loved so much. "Let Jinian think it over for a few days. Don't push too hard. Honestly, repeating really isn't a bad deal for her. I've already decided to—" "Shut up!" Sujinian's eyes were ice. Shen Linzhou blinked. "Shen Linzhou, you scored. Liu Yao and want to repeat, that's your business. But you don't get to decide for me. And don't think I don't know you, like Wang Shihan." When did it start? Was it the month she spent at my house last summer? Or earlier? The color drained from Shen Linzhou's face. The room went dead silent. Wang Shihan stopped crying too, looking up at Shen Linzhou with something unreadable flickering in her eyes. "Jinian, don't be ridiculous." Shen Linzhou's voice was tinged with panic. "You know whether I'm being ridiculous." Sujinian turned away, done looking at him. She took a deep breath and faced her father. "Dad, I'll say this one last time. I will not repeat. The application portal opens on July emailed. I will submit my application to Tsinghua on time. Keep the score report if you want. The system has my scores on file, and it won't stop me from applying." She stepped around her father, walked into her room, and locked the door again. After that, the atmosphere at home became suffocating. One moment they'd be chatting and laughing. The second she appeared, they'd fall silent. Sujinian was hurt, but she didn't give in. What she didn't know was that the real storm hadn't arrived yet. July email T. 上午6点, the application portal went live. Sujinian had gone to bed at 11 and set her alarm for 5. But someone had turned off her alarm. She didn't wake naturally until 7. One glance at the time and a nameless dread washed over her. Moments later, that dread became reality. She opened her phone, logged into the college application system, entered her exam ID, national ID number, and password. The page loaded for a few seconds. Then Sujinian's pupils contracted sharply. Her application had already been submitted. In all 6 preference slots, 6 schools were listed neat and orderly. No, Tsinghua, not a single. Zhoubawu Tier University, all provincial second-tier colleges, every one of them in early childhood education. Sujinian's hands started to shake. She frantically clicked the modify button. System prompt. Application has been submitted and confirmed. To modify, please bring valid identification to the Education Bureau's admissions office. Sujinian hurled her phone onto the bed and stormed out of her room. The living room was empty. On the coffee table lay a note in her mother's handwriting. "Jinian, your dad and I are taking your aunt and Shihan to the provincial capital to look at repeat programs. We'll be back tonight. There's food in the fridge. Heat it up yourself." Sujinian stood there, frozen to the bone. Her exam ID and national ID number, of course her parents knew them. The password, she suddenly remembered. The password was her birthday. She'd never changed the default. It was her father. It had to be her father. Maybe even the whole family, conspiring together. While she slept, they'd turned off her alarm, used her information to log in, and changed every single preference to a second-tier early childhood education program. That way, even if she got admitted, she'd end up at some nobody school, studying a major she had zero interest in. At that point, she would voluntarily choose to repeat. What a thorough plan. What vicious love. Sujinian stood in the living room, tears dropping one by one onto the floor. She cried for exactly 5 minutes. Then she wiped her eyes, picked up her phone, and dialed a number. Hello, Yaelin. I need to report a crime. The dispatcher was a middle-aged woman with a warm, professional manner. Hello, how can I help you? My name is Sujinian, national ID number XXXXXXXXX. My college entrance exam application has been tampered with. I did not log into the system, nor did I authorize anyone to submit an application on my behalf. I believe my family members used my personal information without my consent to log in and alter my preferences. Sujinian's voice was steady, every word enunciated with perfect clarity. This was a scenario she had rehearsed in her mind countless times over the past few days. Not because she was clairvoyant, but because she knew her father too well. Su Jiango was never a man who reasoned with you. He believed in, I say you obey. When soft tactics failed, he would inevitably resort to force. She just hadn't expected it to come this fast. Understood. Let me note down the details. Where are you now? Queen's Residential Complex, Building 4, Unit 603, Qingchuan County. All right, we'll send someone over. Please stay home and wait. After hanging up, Sujinian made a second call. She dialed Teacher Zhao. Teacher Zhao, it's Sujinian. My college application has been tampered with. I've already filed a police report. Is there any way to restore it? Teacher Zhao was silent for a few seconds on the other end. Then her voice spiked with alarm. What? Who did this? Hold on, I'll contact the admissions office right now. There's precedent for this. As long as you can prove it wasn't done by you, the Education Bureau can reverse it. Don't panic, stay calm. Okay, thank you, Teacher Zhao. Sujinian hung up and made a third move. She opened a voice recorder app. Then she sat down in the living room and waited in silence. The police arrived quickly, 2 officers, 1 male, 1 female. Sujinian laid out the entire sequence of events, from receiving her scores, to her aunt's request, to her father's pressure campaign, to discovering the tampering that morning. She left out nothing. The female officer took notes with a deepening frown. Your parents aren't home? No. They went to the provincial capital. We'll need to investigate and verify. Preserve all evidence. The application system logs every login, the IP address. And if it's confirmed that someone else made the changes, this constitutes an illegal act, and you have the right to have your application restored. I know. Sujinian nodded. The male officer studied her, hesitating. Miss, are you sure you want to pursue this legally? They're your parents, after all. I'm sure. Sujinian's voice held no trace of hesitation. This isn't a family matter. This is my life. So Jianguo and the others returned at 4 in the afternoon. The moment they pushed open the door and saw 2 uniformed officers sitting in the living room, Su Jianguo's face went green. Hyuje, what's going on? Wang Qifen was startled too, clutching her husband's arm. Wang Xian hid behind her aunt, peeking around her. Are you Mr. Su Jianguo? The male officer stood. Yes, I am. We received a report from your daughter, Sujinian, alleging that her college entrance exam application was tampered with without her consent. We need to ask you some questions. Su Jianguo's expression cycled through surprise, anger, guilt, and forced composure in the space of seconds. What report? He whipped around to glare at Sujinian. You called the police? Are you out of your mind? You're having your own father arrested? Mr. Su, please answer our questions first. The female officer's tone was flat but firm. Did you or did you not log into the college application system and modify Su Jinian's preferences without her consent? Su Jianguo's lips twitched several times. She's my daughter. What's wrong with helping her fill out applications? She's just a kid. What did she know? Mr. Su, Su Jinian turned 18 this year and has full legal capacity. College entrance exam applications are the sole right of the examinee. No one, including guardians, may submit or modify them without authorization. This is explicitly stipulated in the education law and relevant admissions regulations. Yeah, your actions are potentially illegal. Illegal? Seungo's voice shot up. Filling out my daughter's application is illegal? What kind of justice is that? Dad. Su Jinian rose to her feet. Every eye in the room turned to her. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were red, the kind of red that comes from crying for a very long time. You didn't fill out my application. You destroyed it. Her voice was quiet, but every word cut like a blade. 693 points, Tsinghua University, and you changed it to second Tsinghua Early Childhood Education. This wasn't for my benefit. It was to force me to repeat and babysit Wang Xian. She paused and looked at her aunt and cousin. Aunt, did you know about this? Wang Kuiling's face went white as a sheet. I didn't know, she stammered. You really didn't know? Su Jinian locked eyes with her. Today, all four of you left together. You went to the capital to tour repeat programs, conveniently clearing the house so my dad could do this. Am I wrong? Wang Kuiling's lips trembled. No words came out. Wang Shihan suddenly bolted out from behind her aunt and dropped to her knees on the floor. G.A.G., I'm sorry. It's my fault. I'm the one who told Uncle I said your password might be your birthday. I just wanted you to stay with me so badly. I didn't think it would be this serious. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She kowtowed until her forehead was bright red. Her parents and aunt immediately rushed to help her up, clucking, Han Han, it's not your fault, it's your cousins for blowing this all out of proportion. Jinyan looked down at her cousin kneeling on the floor. In that moment, the last shred of warmth in her heart crumbled to dust. Not because of what Wang Shihan had done, but because she noticed that Wang Shihan's apology was, I didn't think it would be this serious. Not, I shouldn't have done it. It was, I didn't think you'd actually call the police. Su Jinian stepped back, clearing the way. You don't need to kneel to me. This is in the hands of the police and the Education Bureau now. Su Jinian, Su Jianguo roared. Your cousin is on her knees. What more do you want? Mr. Su, the male officer stepped forward. Control yourself. I'll say it again. Tampering with someone's college entrance exam application is a crime. We have already contacted the Education Bureau's admissions office. If system records confirm this was not done by the examinee herself, Su Jinian's application will be restored. At the same time, legal action will be taken against the person responsible. Su Jianguo's face went completely white. Action? What kind of action? Depending on the severity, it may involve administrative detention. I'm her father. Before the law, that is not a defense. Wang Baifen finally broke down crying, tugging at Su Jianguo's sleeve. Jianguo, look what you've done. What I've done? Su Jianguo shook her off. Your sister crying in our living room every day. Your daughter refusing to listen. What was I supposed to do? I was just trying to. He didn't finish. Outside, neighbors were already craning their necks in the hallway. Su Jianguo was a man who valued face above all else. Being reported to the police by his own daughter, becoming the neighborhood spectacle, it was worse than death. His lips trembled as he pointed a shaking finger at Sujinian. Fine, fine. You win. Your wings have hardened. From today on, go wherever you want. This house don't bother coming back. Sujinian looked at her father's outstretched finger, and the corner of her mouth curved slightly. Not a smile. The release that comes only after something inside has finally and completely died. Okay. She walked into her room. 10 minutes later, she came out rolling a suitcase. It was the one she'd saved up half a year's pocket money to buy in her freshman year of high school. 20 inches, pale blue, with a slightly crooked wheel. Inside were her clothes, textbooks and notes, ID card, bank card, and an envelope containing San Chen Lao Bai Yuan, every penny she'd earned from 3 years of tutoring. She passed through the living room without looking at anyone. Jinian! Her mother, Wang Quiffin, chased after her and grabbed her arm. Where are you going? Don't leave. Sujinian stopped and turned to face her mother. Mom? Her voice was very soft. In these 3 days, did you think about me for even 1 second? Wang Quiffin opened her mouth but couldn't speak. Do you know what Liuzhou-san points means? Do you know what Tsinghua means? Do you know that for 3 years I slept only 5 hours a night for this? Tears welled up in Wang Quiffin's eyes. I know, Mom knows you worked hard. You don't know, Sujinian cut her off. If you did, you wouldn't have told me about my cousin's score the very first second I walked in and told me to rein in my happiness. You wouldn't have sat in silence while Dad changed my application. You wouldn't have gone without asking me a single question. She pulled her arm free from her mother's grip. Goodbye. She rolled her suitcase out the door. In the hallway, Shenlin Zhou was leaning against the wall, waiting. Jinian, listen to me. Move! Don't be impulsive. Your dad is like that. Just give him a few days to cool down and he'll… Shenlin Zhou. Sujinian stopped and looked him dead in the eyes. Let me ask you one thing and answer me honestly. Shenlin Zhou blinked, then nodded. Did you know about the application tampering beforehand? His Adam's apple bobbed. I knew. Shihan said the password was your birthday, and your dad said once the application was changed, you'd have no choice but to repeat. At the time, I thought maybe it was for the best. Jinian, I was thinking of you. Enough! Sujinian walked past him, pulling her suitcase down the stairs, 1 step at a time. Behind her, Shenlin Gyo took 2 steps after her and called out, Jinian, you think your Liu Bai Zhouzi send me aches you so great, you won't even help your own cousin. What good will Tsinghua do you? Sujinian didn't look back. Her pace quickened, and that slender figure disappeared around the bend of the stairwell. What he didn't know was that this was the last time he would ever be this close to Sujinian. Teacher Zhao met her at the school gate. Seeing the suitcase, Teacher Zhao asked nothing. She brought Sujinian to her office first and poured her a glass of water. I know everything. I've already contacted the Education Bureau. They pulled the system's back-end logs. The login occurred at HARC and PEX. 上午6点03分 from your home Wi-Fi. The portal had only been open for 3 minutes when your father logged in. You were asleep, correct? Sujinian nodded. She'd set her alarm for 5. It never went off. Someone must have turned it off while she slept. Her father had gotten up at 6 sharp, logged in with her birthday as the password, spent 3 minutes filling in 6-second interior preferences, confirmed the submission, and then taken the whole family out to the provincial capital. Also, Teacher Zhao pulled a sheet of paper from her drawer. This is the draft application you wrote when you came to school 2 days ago. Tsinghua. Computer science and technology was your first choice, followed by 5 other top-tier universities. You scored Liuzhou-san, but the system shows 6-second JIR early childhood education programs. Anyone could see that wasn't your doing. Sujinian looked at her own handwritten application draft, and her nose stung. The Education Bureau says they can restore your application, but you need to go in person with your ID and exam admission ticket for identity verification. They need a written statement. Your application can be corrected by the day after tomorrow at the latest. Sujinian's stomach tightened. The exam admission ticket, she'd tucked the original under her pillow last night, but she'd left the house in such a rush this morning that she hadn't gone back to her room for it. Before her father left for the capital, could he have? She unzipped the suitcase's inner compartment and rummaged through it. Her ID was there, but the exam admission ticket was not. She remembered putting it in her desk drawer after printing the score report at school. This morning, she'd only had time to grab her phone, bank card, and the ID she'd hidden under her pillow. The admission ticket, my dad probably took it. Teacher Zhao's expression darkened. She picked up the phone and made 3 calls in succession to the admissions office, the school registrar, and the Education Bureau. After the last call, she set the phone down. The admissions office says they can't process identity verification without the original admission ticket. It's a hard requirement. Sujinian's fingers tightened around the rim of her cup. But there's another way. Teacher Zhao looked at her. If the admission ticket is lost, you can get a temporary replacement certificate. The school registrar issues a letter with an official seal, and then the Education Bureau's admissions office enters it into the system. Going home to get the ticket isn't realistic given the situation. Will that be in time? Tomorrow is the last day for modifications. The amendment window closes at 下午6点. Teacher Zhao checked her watch. It's 下午5点40分 now. I'll be at the registrar's office first thing tomorrow morning, and I'll try to have the certificate ready by 10. You take it and go straight to the bureau. All right. Sujinian finished her water and set the cup gently on the table. That night, she stayed at a classmate's house and barely slept a wink. The moonlight outside the window was white as a blade. The next morning, Teacher Zhao had the certificate from the registrar's office ready by 上午9点30分 and had the lost Gen ticket situation logged electronically. With the school certificate in hand, Sujinian rushed straight to the County Education Bureau. 上午10点10分. The sun was already brutal. She pushed open the admissions office door. Inside, a middle-aged woman sat scrolling on her phone behind the desk. The air conditioner hummed. The woman glanced up at her, then looked back down. Hello, I'm here to modify my application. Got your documents? The woman said without looking up. Yes. Sujinian placed the school certificate, her original ID, the printed score report, and 2 copies of her written statement on the desk. The woman scanned them. Where's the admission ticket? It was lost. The school issued a certificate. The woman picked up the school certificate, glanced at it, and tossed it back down. A school certificate won't do. We need the original admission ticket. System requires photo ID matching. But the school certificate has the registrar's official seal. Sujinian kept her voice steady. And the back. Teacher Zhao contacted your office yesterday. Which Teacher Zhao? The woman looked up, brow furrowed. The one from Kijuan number Gino. Hi. She says it's fine, and that makes it fine. Rules are rules. No admission ticket, no system access. You can call the police, and it still won't change that. Sujinian felt her blood cooling degree by degree. She took a deep breath, pulled out her phone, and dialed Teacher Zhao. Teacher Zhao, they won't accept the school certificate. They insist on the original admission ticket. Teacher Zhao was quiet for 2 seconds, then raised her volume by 2 notches, put her on the phone. Sujinian held out her phone. My homeroom teacher would like to speak with you. The woman reluctantly took the phone. Sujinian didn't know what Teacher Zhao said. She only saw the woman's expression change twice. First irritation, then embarrassment, and finally something like alarm. The woman handed the phone back and stood up. Wait here. She gathered Sujinian's documents and disappeared into another office. About 20 minutes later, she returned, followed by a middle 50-aged man in glasses. The man looked over Sujinian's documents, then studied her face. We've already pulled the ped trade records. The application wasn't modified by you. Given the circumstances, we'll expedite this. Sign your written statement, and we'll restore your application right now. Sujinian's fingers trembled as she signed. At 下午2点10分, she watched with her own eyes as her application was resubmitted on the screen. Tsinghua University, Computer Science and Technology. First choice. Confirm. Submit. Success. Young lady, the man in glasses stood up and handed her the receipt, a note of emotion in his voice, scoring. Liu Sen is no small thing. Study hard from here on. Don't waste that score. Sujinian took the receipt and nodded. Stepping outside the Education Bureau, it was exactly Shaolian Darius. 3.5 hours until the system closed. She stood on the sidewalk, the sun beating down on her head, dizzy with heat. She suddenly realized she hadn't eaten a single bite since the night before. But she didn't feel hungry. She only felt that her heartbeat, at last, was no longer driven by fear. On July the 2nd, Sujinian successfully restored her college entrance exam application at the Education Bureau. Tsinghua University, Computer Science and Technology, first choice. When the staff saw her scores and learned what she'd been through, they made an exception and expedited the process on the spot. Sujiangguo was given 5 days of administrative detention and fined Wu Fintian for tampering with someone's college application. The incident became the talk of Chengchuan County, and Sujiangguo lost all face, telling anyone who'd listened that he'd raised an ungrateful wretch. Wang Kuiling took Wang Shihan and fled back to their hometown overnight. She knew that if the matter was investigated further, neither she nor her daughter would escape accountability. And she was right. During the follow-Jian investigation, Wang Shihan admitted that she had provided Sujinian's birthday as the password and encouraged Sujiangguo to change the application. Though she was a minor and not held criminally liable, once the story spread among the relatives, Wang Puiling's reputation was destroyed. Shen Lingzhou really did repeat the year, not because he wanted a higher score, because Wang Xian called him sobbing, saying she was all alone at the repeat program back home, lonely and scared. So Shen Lingzhou gave up the Jubawu University his Luo Arya could have gotten him, traveled to Wang Xian's hometown, and enrolled in the same program. He sent Su Jinian one final message. Jinian, I'm sorry. I know you'll be fine. Su Jinian looked at it for 3 seconds, deleted it. Then she blocked Shen Lingzhou. In mid-August, the acceptance letter arrived. Red envelope, gold, gin-embossed lettering. Tsinghua University admission notice. Sujinian was working a summer job at a milk tea shop when the delivery came. She opened the envelope with fingers sticky from syrup, and when she saw those words, tears fell before she knew it. Not from pain, from finally. That evening, in her rented room, A Senliling Gen Yuan Gen A Gen month single with no air conditioning, just a rattling old fan, she took the letter out and read it again and again. She photographed it and posted it to her social media. No caption, just the photo. Teacher Zhao was the first to like it, commenting, "My proudest student." Sujinian smiled. Then she turned off the post's visibility settings, blocked from her parents. September email tea. Sujinian took her 20 Jin-inch pale blue suitcase and rode a 14 Jin-hour hard Jin seat train to Beijing alone. No one saw her off. The train cut through plains, rivers, mountains, and tunnels. Outside the window, the scenery shifted from southern lushness to northern vastness. She leaned against the glass and watched the fields and villages rush backward, and suddenly remembered a time when she was small, her father hoisting her onto his shoulders to watch the Lantern Festival lights. Sitting on his neck, she'd felt like the tallest person in the world. She closed her eyes. Those lanterns had gone out, but ahead there was brighter light. What came next played like a movie on fast jump forward. Su Jinian thrived at Tsinghua. Freshman year, she won the national scholarship. Sophomore year, she joined a professor's research lab. Junior year, she landed an internship at a top Silicon Valley tech company. Her life was like a precisely launched rocket, every step landing on exactly the right trajectory. And those who had tried to drag her down? Su Jiangguo spent the first year after his daughter left, still talking tough, telling everyone that girl is ungrateful and she got too big for her boots. But as time passed and the neighbors learned the truth, the looks they gave him grew increasingly loaded. Eventually, when he walked through the neighborhood, his back had developed a permanent hunch. He called Su Jinian countless times, sent countless messages, from furious rants at first to silence, and finally to pleading. Jinian, Dad was wrong, come home. Jinian, your mom cries every day. Her health isn't good. Jinian, are you coming home for New Year's? Dad saved your favorite braised ribs for you. So Jinian didn't reply to a single one. Not because she didn't care. Front. Some wounds aren't healed by a simple, Dad was wrong. Wang Huifan broke down faster than Su Jiangguo. She regretted it 3 days after her daughter left, but she was afraid to call, afraid of hearing that question. Did you think about me for even 1 second? Those words were a thorn lodged in her heart, hurting more with every remembering. She developed depression, not pretend real. Every day she'd sit in Su Jinian's room in a daze, flipping through the old textbooks her daughter had left behind, page after page, as if turning through a time that could never return. Shen Linzhou's fate was the most ironic of all. After repeating, his score actually dropped from Liu Ariel to Wu Bachi and Wang Shihan. She went from 412 to 448, still second 减 tier. Shen Linzhou ended up at an unremarkable university, studying a middling major. From time to time, he'd come across Su Jinian's posts on social media, winning awards, joining top companies, speaking at conferences. Each update landed like a slap. Not on his face, on his heart. He changed his number several times and sent her messages, evolving from, Jinian, how are you? To, Jinian, I miss you so much. He never once received a reply. Su Jinian received a full GIN scholarship offer for direct doctoral admission, along with 2 offers from top tech companies. She chose the PhD. That spring, for the first time in years, she went back to Jingchuan County. Not to go home, to visit Teacher Zhao. Teacher Zhao had aged. More gray hair. But when she saw Su Jinian, her smile was so wide her eyes nearly disappeared. I always knew you'd make it. Su Jinian brought Teacher Zhao pastries from a famous Beijing bakery, and the 2 of them sat in the office, drinking tea and talking all afternoon. As she left the school, Su Jinian passed by Kuiwen Residential Complex. She stood at the entrance and looked up at the window of Building C, Unit Liu Lingsan. The window was dark, no light. She stood there for about 30 seconds. Then she turned and walked away. The road behind needed no looking back. A phoenix reborn flies alone.